So things have been ugly for a little while now, especially over the last year or so when it comes to video game pricing, specifically hardware that goes in a lot of the consoles, especially DRAM. But we're even seeing it for graphics cards, and it feels like right now everything is just expensive across the board. When you see the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series north of $600 for their flagship systems in year six, there's a problem. Well, all of a sudden, there might be some hope, bit of optimism here. And it's kind of funny because remember Micron? Remember them leaving the consumer space with their RAM, their consumer facing RAM. Looks like they went through it this past week. Heavy drop in their stock, and people are looking towards one key factor. Even though I think there's a few things here, but this could be good news. Maybe, especially going into next generation, where we could see RAM prices actually start to tick down over time. But how likely is that? I still have some questions. We'll go over all of that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So this is something that I saw getting thrown around a lot, right? DDR5 RAM prices show rare drop amidst memory shortage after TurboQuant announcement. We'll get to that in a second, but right now people just track RAM prices consistently, hoping there will be a sale for say 32 gigabytes of DDR5, which now, hey, it's at least below $400. It's sitting at 380 according to Notebook Check, right? With the Corsair Vengeance DDR5 pair there for 32 gigabytes. It was at $440 previously, and now seeing at least a bit of a drop down. It is at least somewhat hopeful. It's going in the right direction. It's still expensive. It's still incredibly expensive for 32 gigabytes of RAM that DDR5, I mean, it's been around for in terms of computer age, like where it seemed like things were moving constantly, like very, very quickly. It's getting a little older, I'll say, for DDR5 memory. But still, $380, it's less than it was recently, where it was north of 400. Good news. I also checked there are sites that are literally dedicated to trying to find the best deals by tracking price changes even up to like every 5 minutes. They'll refresh this thing, and you can see over the last 7 days down 2% for DDR5 categories, down 3.2% for the last 30 days. Again, that's why it's green, going in the right direction. Much better than when you would go on here and it would be a red arrow up, and this 30 days would be like 40%, some crazy figure. Okay, so then if you take a look at Micron, it's obviously big supplier for DRAM. It's like going all in on AI. People noticed, oh wait, their stock got absolutely hammered over the last 5 days, down 15%. If you look beyond that though, like you can see even, I mean, over a month, 13%, but you really zoom out, like, okay, they're still up quite a bit, we'll say, over the last 6 months. But that was when things really went crazy with AI and the DRAM crunch that was happening. And for the most part, Micron or other RAM manufacturers could start naming their prices and selling contracts that cover their entire next fiscal year. But still, if you look, I mean, they were rolling there for a while, and then all of a sudden, this past week, just gave back all their gains they've made over the last few months, now dating back into January time period for where their valuation is. So what happened here? Well, the thing that people are really pointing to right now is this Google TurboQuant. It's an AI compression algorithm. The idea being that large language models, the memory usage can be reduced by 6 times. All right. So the idea here is, and it's gone over pretty well. Look, some of the details you get into, you go, okay, I'm not someone out here designing and programming large language models, so there is stuff in here that just goes over your head. But for the most part, it does appear that the cache that's used for some of these large language models can have their memory footprint, we'll say, reduced by 6 times, which then means in order to run some of these larger context windows, which is kind of like short-term memory for maybe a large language model that you're talking to, and a lot of them being cloud-based, well, as well as you're talking to ChatGPT, much bigger context window when it's cloud-based versus if you're running it locally. All right, because locally it's just dependent on your hardware. So if you don't have 24 gigabytes or so of RAM to deal with, you're gonna have a model that is hamstrung quite a bit. And that's why you see people have these builds of 64 gigabytes plus of RAM, and then they go, oh yeah, the cache used for my large language model that's local is more than half of that, just being used at all times. It's just kind of set aside. It's allotted for that, which sounds crazy, but that's just kind of where we are right now with some of these models. But with this TurboQuant that Google, which they put out it's kind of research paper for it, so we still would need to see it, I guess, like in practice or in action integrated with some of these large language models, local ones specifically, that people are using and getting a lot of testing out of it. It is something that's being shown, I would assume, in like the best possible scenario, the best light. But still, if you can shrink memory usage that much, all of a sudden the belief is, wait, they don't need that much RAM then in order to run a lot of the language models that they're running right now. They can cut back maybe on the RAM expenditure. My thing though is the way I'm looking at this. All right, so obviously, based on when this page came at this research, which was published, I think like 5 or 6 days ago now, and then you line it up with what happened here with Micron. It's like, well, yeah, okay, I could see that lining up and obviously causing part of this because that's what a lot of the headlines were saying, and investors put two and two together. They're very reactionary, very emotional at times. So, like for example, remember when this happened with gaming stocks getting hammered, right? After Google showed off their Project Genie, where you could just talk to it, explain what you want a scene to be, and it would work out a 1 minute game or something, and you could run around in the world. Very, very limited, but just because of that, a lot of companies like Nintendo, Take-Two, EA, others, they all had their stocks drop quite significantly. I think Unity lost like 30% in 48 hours or something. It was craziness. And a lot of that was just kind of the reactionary nature to it. And since then, it's many of those stocks have recovered a bit, but people realized, oh wait, the technology really isn't there yet. It's gonna be a while. So I do think Micron right now, while they got hit, it'll probably come back a bit, because what I think is going to happen with TurboQuant, even if it does what it says it's going to do, you're probably going to see people then push the boundaries further. They're like, oh, wait, we have more room now, so let's just try to do more with that room. Not necessarily buy less RAM or try to have a PC with 128 gigabytes of RAM. No, we still need that because we're still going to jam more and more context in, simply because this new compression algorithm will allow us to do that. I guess if nothing else, it can accelerate some of the development and breakthroughs that happen in AI, because we're in this space right now where AI is taking more than it's giving, I think, for real world implementations. Now, maybe at some point we could get to a position where it's just curing all disease, solving all these world problems. Then you go, well, you know what? Those 5 years where things were expensive, it's worth it now, but it hasn't really shown itself to be that yet. So people are just naturally annoyed with the idea of AI because everything, the PlayStation 5 starts at $600 now. So yes, everyone's going to be annoyed by that. But the thing now, though, to consider is also RAM itself got to a point where I think consumers went, I'm good, I'll just kind of wait. And even though RAM still went up, when you have less and less demand from the consumer side and you start actually having more supply than you're expecting sitting at these higher prices, you'll see more sales that occasionally happen. You will actually have some prices then even come down. So I think it's also a possibility that coincided here with this TurboQuant situation. But the nice thing is, if this also works into the back end where there would be contracts being written up for significant amounts of RAM all at once with economy of scale for, say, a PlayStation 6, even an Xbox, their Helix system, the Steam machine, I assume, is already kind of allotted for, and they're just trying to work out how they're going to tell us that it's more expensive than we were all thinking it'd be. It's going to be a challenging time, no matter what, for these different platform holders to launch a new generation. So I think either way, this is something that will still take time, because 32 gigabytes of DDR5 should be like $140 or something, I think, right now. But we see the prices being more than double that, 250% of that currently. So we still have a ways to go. The other good thing to consider here is this might be a new path forward, where while we hear about all these data centers popping up, and that's still going to, I think, continue for the next few years now, maybe the other play will be, hey, let's continue research and development on the side of compression and the efficiency side for a lot of these models. And that's kind of been the belief for a while, is there's going to be a pretty rough period starting out where these models just are not very efficient in massive memory footprints. But over time, there will be development behind the scenes that will make these LLMs, these large language models, much more efficient to where you can stream a lot of stuff. You can have them running on much lower end devices and hardware. And then you don't really think about having to set up a dedicated computer with a ton of RAM. And you don't have to think about it. It's like it'll run basically on everything and it'll run really, really well. And the thing is, we're not close to that yet. I mean, people kick around the idea of this AGI stuff. And I think outright when it comes to AI that is at least meaningful in some way to everyday life, I still think we're like 4 or 5 years off of any of that. But the idea being it will accelerate over time. So who knows? Maybe I'm off and it just next year, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. The light bulb comes on and it's just like full speed ahead. But at least for now, I'm kind of hopeful that maybe we could see a bit of a downturn for pricing in RAM, a wavering there for DRAM. And all of a sudden, the prices and stuff cascades a bit and we could have RAM that's a bit more affordable. And maybe, I know this sounds crazy, systems could come down in price next year. What a world that would be. Basically like the world we've had up until this point. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Is it possible that what we're seeing right now is the start of a massive decline in terms of RAM pricing? And could we see more things like TurboQuant or other R&D being done into making these AI models more efficient so that the RAM situation can be alleviated a bit and we can have next-gen systems that aren't $1,000 or more? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.